Ping sound. Are those birds near you? Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, it's
So
Okay,
welcome
we
to
can start.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is Designing Your Alternative Assessment with Dr. Eliana Khoury, and then I'm gonna give you the floor to get started.
Thank you so much, Yasser. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a workshop. So there are going to be 2 breakout rooms where you will get an opportunity to think about your assessment. And I'm going to give you a few examples about assessment. My name is Eliana Khoury. I am an assistant professor at Athabasca University, and I research alternative assessment. So I've been talking to a lot of professors, interviewing them, doing social media campaigns with them about what they use other than the traditional assessment and what they do about it. And I will share a few examples with you, and hopefully this will give you inspiration to change your assessment too. So I'm going to share my screen. And okay, so here's the plan for today. Thinking about your assessment takes a lot more time, but we're going to start with this. And at the end, I'm going to give you my email. You can chat with me because this is a reflective process and it might take some time. So consider this as an opportunity and as an introduction to assessment. So there's 4 steps today. The first one, I'm going to give you an activity to reflect on your assessment with a few questions. Then I'm going to introduce a few ideas about alternative assessment. Step 3, you're going to go back again to the breakout rooms and think about which alternative assessment might work for you and how that would look like. And then step 4, we're going to share these ideas and talk about what's next. What can you do next? So as I mentioned, the first one is a 10-minute activity. We're going to go into groups of 2 or 3. I don't know. Yasser, I will let you decide on that. Maybe let's look at the number of participants. And these are the questions I want you to think about. So think about a traditional assessment that you use in your own classroom and how you would like to modify it. Why did you choose it? How does it impact your learners? How does it support your learners? Or how do you want it to support them better? What are the learning outcomes of this assessment? So thinking about this in order to think about how you can change it. And what would you like to achieve through this assessment? And please share this on the Jamboard. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So share your ideas on the Jamboard. I put the questions also on the Jamboard and you can see them there. So let's not lose any more time. Let's go into breakout rooms. Maybe let's make 2 breakout rooms. Yes, sir.
You didn't give us the Jamboard yet.
Sorry?
You didn't send us the Jamboard
Yes,
link.
I will. No. Yes, sir, can we before we send them, I'll put the link because they
Okay,
cannot access it after that.
I'll just prepare the breakouts now.
Yeah, thank you. So 2 breakout rooms. Here's the link. Okay, the link is in the chat. Please go to the breakout room. We have 10 minutes and the questions are on the Jamboard.
I'm just preparing the breakouts now.
Thank you.
Oh, I think Meg dropped out.
Here we worked. Okay. How many are we right now?
So yes, Alia just came in. You want to recreate the
Sorry?
breakout? Meg dropped out and Alia just joined. Do you want to
Okay.
recreate the
I'll
breakout?
refresh that. I'll refresh that. Did you share something?
Thea is here. Hi, Thea.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Thank you for sharing the link.
Thanks very much. We're going to go to breakout rooms and answer questions on this Jamboard.
Yes, you have 10 minutes. Please reflect on the assessments that you are using now. That they received the invitations to the
No.
breakout rooms?
Okay.
Not yet.
Yes, is everything okay?
Yeah. I'm just allowing everybody to join the rooms.
Nope. I don't think anybody got the invitation.
We can also move them manually. Yes.
Yeah,
sir?
I know.
Yes. Okay.
Nothing's happening on my side, but I'm on the phone, but nobody has moved anywhere.
Yeah, I don't see anything
The
either.
invite has not yet come. Yeah.
Yes, now it's here.
Thank you, Yasser.
Dr. Meg and Nasreen, are you willing to go to breakout rooms?
Yeah, sure, but I've just joined, so I don't know what's
Yeah, I
going
know.
on. Sorry.
Dr. Meg?
Yes, I was having computer issues. I apologize.
Okay, yeah, I understand. So I'll add a room and I'll add you in this room, okay?
Thank you so much.
Both of you.
How can I join the room? There isn't any icon or anything.
Yeah, I'll just add you to one now.
Okay, thank you.
So
Hi,
yeah, hi.
I didn't move to any breakout rooms, right? Up till now.
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Now you
I was the only one in my breakout room. No one else came.
okay,
Oh.
I'll just get you to our breakout room right now. Where have you been, Virginia?
How many breakout rooms do we have, Yasser?
Sorry?
How many breakout rooms do we have?
4.
4. Okay.
And there are like 2 rooms of 3 because we can't add a room after the rooms are started. So I had to move people who joined 3.
Okay. Can we broadcast a message saying that we're only gonna have 5 more minutes because
Okay.
for the interest of time, please? So, or 6 minutes. So 6 minutes, we will close the breakout rooms. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Can you broadcast that because I can't?
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll do
able to
that.
see it. Yes, thank you.
I did.
Thank you.
So whenever you want me to close the rooms, let me know, okay?
Yes, 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Okay. So you're based in Canada, right?
In Canada, yes, but I'm originally from Lebanon.
Oh,
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, let's share. I see that room 1, you put your answers here. And so you wrote reading reflections. Outcome is to have students critically reflect on their reading and apply to their own context. Is that something that you would like to change, or is that something you would like to achieve?
It's what I've been doing before, but now I feel like AI could do that. So I need to reframe the assignment so that the students are really doing something authentic with
Yes.
the reading.
Yes. Thank you. And Tea's responses, societal impact report. It's one of the few assignments I do that's just a written report. Okay, and where do they get the information from for this report? If
So
you don't
that's
mind sharing.
actually, oh yeah, that's actually kind of difficult to summarize because it's for a capstone design course. And so at the end of the course, they conclude about how their design might impact society. So they'll look at social impact, economic, ecological. So if there's any chance of pollution in the manufacturing process. And so they pull a lot from whatever subject matter experts they have. But of course, you know, a lot of the time, if their design is something that a clinician might want, then the clinician is a bit biased and only looks at the positive impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So then the team usually when these reports come in, they're very optimistic, and they don't necessarily consider all of the factors. So as an example, you know, if it's something like, oh, this medical device will increase access to underserved populations, they'll kind of think that it automatically will, as opposed to thinking about what is the reimbursement pathway, or how do you ensure that it gets to the people who really need the access and not just becomes something that disadvantages them even more, where only people with private health insurance might be able to have this. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. They get a lot of information from a lot of different sources, and I think that they don't always get a chance to consider all of the different facets of our population. So being able to respect, you know, the cultural diversity, both socioeconomic and social.
Wow, this is a great this is a great example of how to get the students to critically reflect. And I think one idea that I have in my presentation about involving the community would be helpful for you. So hopefully when we get to that, you will like it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And I see here there's assess students writing for reflection, knowing that they may be using AI. Yes, and I think this also relates to reading reflections too. So thank you. And this is Shahina and Alia. Shahina's and Alia. Okay. So you would like to modify written exams. This is my mission in life, and multiple choice exams and essays, as well as reflection as homework. Reflection on homework as homework. Oh, wow. It's interesting to see that reflection is a recurring theme. And I think that's a great idea because there's a lot of current research that shows that maybe we need to include reflections in a different way. So hopefully I can give you some examples today. So students are not happy about written exams in general. Students do not understand the purpose, value, meaning behind having exams. Some students come from stressful school backgrounds and do not wish to experience having exams again. Yep, I totally agree. The learning outcomes checking for understanding and knowledge acquisition, and would like to achieve that the students have understand what, what is required from the course. Yes, we want to see if the students really understand, because I am sure from these answers, I can say that even me, when I used to give them essays and they would write these wonderful essays, but I'm not really sure that they understood or they improved their learning. So hopefully today, with all the ideas, you might be inspired to do something new. Is there somebody else who wants to share something that's not written before I move back to my presentation?
I think something important for me came up with in discussing with Irene, because Irene looks like she's got a lot of experience with alternative assessment and I don't. So what I was able to learn from her in our discussion was it looks like some things that help a lot with the alternative assessment are, like, she talked a lot about the feedback that you get throughout. So we've been talking about student doing reflecting along the way, but there's also the instructor going to them along the way, giving their feedback, so that it's a continually, continual discussion. And also it's about time and chunking. So Irene was explaining about how, you separate things and then you can give feedback on specific things. And my view was that that's easier to do when you have a long course that's like, 12, 13 weeks long. Like for us in North America, that's usually 1 semester or 2 semesters. It's 26 weeks or so. So you can do that easier over longer periods. I find that in courses where you have like everything compacted down to 3 weeks, I find that that's where professors just say, okay, just write an essay, you have 3 weeks to do it, or just write a summary of the book, you have 3 weeks to do it.
Yes, I agree. It's hard when you have it's harder when you have shorter courses, but I believe it's also applicable. You can divide the tasks and link them. And this is one thing that I like with ungrading, is that you, at the end, let's say we are doing a total ungrading, and then the students at the end, they have to decide on their grade, or they want to tell you their grade. One of the things that I really like about that approach is that they come to you with their proof of learning. And they say, for example, I deserve an A+ because this is what I learned. And I like to include how they used my feedback. So step 1 is you do this, you receive a feedback. And then step 2 is tell me what you did with my feedback. And I think this would be relevant here, even if it's a 3 weeks course, then every week they have to reflect. It's a lot of work, I admit, but it's a lot of learning too.
We also thank you, Danielle, for presenting us. We also were playing with the idea of what if we didn't have a pass or fail? We had a done, what if?
Wow.
Because we are different learners. We learn differently. So whatever we present, there's the way we understand the assignment, the way we understand the subject. So what if we didn't have pass or fail? Just done.
Wow.
Back to you. Yeah.
I love this. This is some, I always struggle with grades and what does it mean? And like, okay, you got a C, you passed the course, or a B, you passed the course, but what does that really mean? Like, I really want you to learn, and like, I really want you to leave this course learning stuff, not having a C. It's like, it's not related. So Irene, I'm gonna ask you a few questions later. Expect an email from me if that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, our group, I was having trouble with the Jamboard. I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
finally put it in
That's
the right
okay.
place.
Yeah.
But we were discussing about going AI and writing, which has been a common discussion here. But then having the alternative is to go back to the traditional way of writing in the classroom. And you don't really want to do that. So we discussed very briefly, maybe looking at it as a hybrid, where if you do write in the classroom, you may have to change the way in which they're writing in the classroom, like maybe having them bring things into the classroom so that they can write with guidance in the classroom, so you can have a better idea of what they know and what they don't know, what they've generated and what they haven't. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting was the problem of reflection. If you're asking them to write for reflection, how can you assess that if there's a computer that's writing? Who's really reflecting? So those are some of the issues that came up with that.
Yes, thank you. And I agree with the AI. There's a lot of things that are coming up, but I think that there's a great opportunity there to think about assessment and to change it for the future of our learners, for their employability, for their work, for how can we use this. And I hope some of the examples that I'm going to share now would be interesting for you. I think I have one idea for you, Virginia. I hope you like it. I'm going to go back to my presentation. Can you see the presentation? Yeah, okay. So this is what I do. I collect ideas. I talk with instructors and I see what they've been doing. And I want to share some of the examples with you here about alternative assessment. But first, I want to talk about this framework that I have, just so you know when I talk about alternative assessment, what does that mean? And this framework came out of several studies that I did with instructors who use alternative assessment to see why they use them. And the framework has 10 principles of alternative assessment. The first one is that it has alternative forms. It's not only an essay or a multiple choice question. There's alternative forms. There's a lot of ideas and people are doing amazing stuff. It's authentic, so it reflects the real world. So the real world could be work, could be the market, but it also could be something relevant to the students. So authentic is a definition by itself. Also, alternative assessment is equitable. So most of the instructors that I talk to, and they talk about alternative assessment, they talk about equity. This is something important to them, is that I want all my students to learn, and I want all my students to be able to demonstrate their learning, because sometimes they learn, but the assessment that I'm using does not allow them to demonstrate their learning. So equity is an important part of alternative assessment. It's not only using an alternative way. It's not only asking my students to make a video, it's asking my students to make a video equitably. And also here, there's ideas that we talk about. There's a chapter that I have about this if you want to read more. It's also flexible, and I think we experienced this with COVID, flexibility with time, flexibility with questions, flexibility with grading. It's renewable, so it's not only an assessment that is done that only the student does, the instructor sees, grades, and then it's forgotten. No, it's there. It lives there. It lives with the students, lives with the community. It's also interdisciplinary, so including different things from different disciplines, maybe connecting with an instructor that teaches something else and then working with them. It's co-created. between the instructor and the students, and also between the students themselves. So the students together, they co-create an assessment, and the students and the instructor co-create the assessment together. So it's not something that is done to the students, something is done with the students. It is continuous, and I think, Irene, this is what you meant by it also keeps happening and it's chunked. So it's not something that just write an essay at the end. It's every few days or whenever the students have learned something new. It's culturally responsive. So also it's not something like, for example, it should be something relevant to the students, whether the content is relevant, the content of the assessment, or the strategy that is used for the assessment. So how do our students what methods do our students use to demonstrate their learning in their life? Let's use that. And finally is engaging, and this is something that I'm always advocating, is that assessment should be engaging. Students should be engaged with the assessment. They should have fun. They should be involved with their emotions, with their minds, with everything, in order for the learning to happen through that assessment. So it's just a small introduction about what alternative assessment is when I talk about it. I will also include a link in the slides. I am so sorry, I will share the link to the slides with you too. I forgot that. So I'm gonna move to this is what I mean when I talk about equity and fairness in assessment. So every student has multiple or varied opportunities to demonstrate what they know, they understand, at what they can do. We have visible learning intentions, and we have well-defined and anticipated outcomes of learning. This is what equity in assessment means. So let's keep in mind that when we are doing assessment, we know that some students are at a larger disadvantage than others when it comes to assessment. And how can we bridge that gap, and what can we do to make our assessment equitable? Okay, here are my examples. The first one is renewable assessment. So what can you do? I've seen people do a Wikipedia assignment. I saw this, there was an article about one instructor in medical school who asked the students to go in and write Wikipedia articles about what they were studying. So he was teaching the students to convey what they learned to the public. And that was the skill that he was working on. In order to convey what they learned, they need to understand it. And this was the assignment. I also asked them to go to Wikipedia and fix mistakes that were found there related to what they were learning. And here they need to submit a report. And so they were getting an input from Wikipedia, presenting the original input, fixing it, and then presenting why they fixed it. They were engaged with this. They can choose the topic that they want. So if they are learning about multiple topics, they can choose one, or multiple groups can work on different topics together. You can design it the way you want, just giving you examples. Case studies, I've seen a lot of learning happen with case studies, or exams happen with case studies. But what I'm suggesting here is that the students write the case studies. It's not only that the students solve the case studies, the students write them, and they can put them in the repository for case studies. I know that UBC has one, and I'm sure there's multiple ones, or your university can create a repository of, for example, culturally relevant case studies. I was talking with an instructor from Saudi Arabia, and he teaches business, and he was saying that most of the cases that they use come from the US. So, and he said that there was a missing link there because the cases were great, but they were not culturally relevant. So why don't we ask our students to write case studies that are culturally relevant, that talk about people from their communities? Also, course auxiliary materials. So students can create, for example, PowerPoints, they can create exams, they can create questions and put them in these repositories and make them open access. And the open educational resources connects to the one before, but I wanted to give more examples. For example, evaluating an open educational resource. This is something that I would like to do with my students. And I know there's a lot of books, for example, of books in sociology and education, or in different topics that are online. And you can ask your students to go in and evaluate them, and then submit a report on what they thought was useful, what needs to be fixed, and what needs to be modified, not fixed. And these reports don't have to be written. They could be a video, they could be a concept map. So how they present it is not the most important. Most important is evaluating these open education resources. You can write an open textbook with your students. So, and I would recommend this for graduate students, for example, master's degree. So you can, there's a lot of, so you know that textbooks are expensive, and textbooks are usually not very culturally responsive. What I would like to suggest here is, for example, if you are teaching literature, or if you are teaching psychology or sociology or business or anything, you can create these open textbooks with your students with culturally relevant examples. Also, they can contribute to an open textbook, and that would be the assessment itself. They can create materials for the open textbook. I just mentioned this, the PowerPoint presentation. There's another idea, which is an edit-a-thon on Wikipedia. I included a link here from York University in Canada. And what they did two. The first one was to improve digital coverage of Black excellence. So they put all the students and they gave them, for example, 24 hours or 48 hours to go in and edit Wikipedia pages to provide examples of Black excellence. The second example is about women in science. So no matter what the topic you are doing, you can find something that is missing and then create these edit-a-thon or ideas. And there's a lot of instructions out there how to do this. What I would recommend is collaborating with other instructors or with other universities. Like this one, the improving digital coverage of Black excellence, was done between, I think, 4 universities in Canada, and students from different, from these universities and different courses, they went in and they did that edit-a-thon, and that was their assessment, because they took what they learned in their courses and they put it in these Wikipedia pages. Artificial intelligence, I wanted to include this because there's a lot that we can do there. We can ask our students to evaluate the output. That's one simple example. So you can either provide them with the output, or they can go look for it. They can evaluate it for accuracy, for bias, for gender bias, for cultural bias, and you can grade them based on that, or they can even interview the AI bot. I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong one. And another idea would be a social media assignment. So this also goes, you can, reflection could be included in this in a way. So I do the first one with my students. So a professional learning network. I ask them to go and find 5 people that they would like to follow on social media. First, they have to tell me like what they want to learn in relation to my course. And then they have to find these 5 people, tell me why they chose them, and then follow them for the rest of the course, and then tell me what they learned from these 5 people in relation to the course. And here I am setting them up for lifelong learning. So they are learning, these people will be on their social media, their preferred social media. So, and it could be also blogs, it could be they are following them on, it doesn't have to be a social media in the term of Twitter or anything. So whatever their preferred method of learning is, and then they follow these 5 people, they learn from them. Also a social media campaign. I have an instructor who did this in nursing, and the students went and they needed to design a social media campaign for different audiences to teach them about a certain topic that they were learning. And so they had to go and learn about their about the community, they learn about the different audiences, and then design the social media campaign based on that, and then go and deliver the social media campaign and see what happened there. So students were really engaged with this type of assessment. A collaborative annotation of reading. You can put a document that you want your students to read and put it on, for example, Google Doc would be the easiest part, but there's other tools like Hypothesis, for example. You can put it there and the students go and annotate. What I also like is a collaborative annotation. So they each one annotate their ideas, and then they annotate on each other's ideas. And then when the assessment would be a reflection on these annotations, and they have to specify. So for example, Eliana wrote this And this is what I thought about it. So I went and I researched more papers, and then I saw that Maha put this, and I researched more ideas and I put them here. So this collaborative thinking altogether is a way of involving the students and assessing their learning. A debate. This is an example. You will find it on our channel that we work on. It's on organizing a debate, and students, like, they have to research and really learn the material in order to do that debate. And you can do the debate online, you can do it face-to-face, and you can include a reflection after the debate. And the reflection, I've seen people put guided questions of this person that said that, and I learned from this person, and I disagree with that person. So the reflection is just not just something that they need to just put, they need to connect it to their learning and to their students. And also they can write collaborative reflections, or they can exchange their reflections and annotate them. I'm just giving you ideas. A virtual escape room. Also here, students, the assessment would be the virtual escape room. There's also links on how to create these rooms. I'm sorry, I am in the library. Another way of alternative assessment is involving the students as partners. So asking the students to write exam questions, to decide on the assessment, and ask them for examples. And students are really, sometimes students are not ready, and I believe it's our job to help them be ready for this type of partnership. But sometimes when they are ready, they can give you great ideas. I know one student who does comics, and he said that when he does comics, it takes a lot more time than writing an essay, but he does it and he is happy and he learns a lot. So ask them, how do they want to demonstrate their learning? You can ask visual mapping assessment, for example, ask them to create a concept map. It could be a collaborative concept map. So they have to discuss in order to get to the concept map that they need to demonstrate. They can create timeline. There's interactive timelines that they can create. They can create a network representation and then make their assessment based on that. If you can involve the community, so ask the community, what do they need? What does the library need? What does the local school need? And then the students can go and interview people there and build the assessment based on that, create something for the community, or even the wider community. For example, the sustainable goals. It could be the wider community, could be, let's say they are studying physics, and the wider community could be people studying physics in Egypt, people studying physics in Canada and in Lebanon, and then they can come together and try to solve one of these sustainable development goals, to contribute to these goals. This is something that I use in my course. I ask my students to go find a professional development opportunity that is online and that is around 1 hour. They have to submit 2 months before. They have to tell me at the beginning of the course that this is the professional development that I want to attend, why, and then they attend it, and then they tell me about it. If you can find something like this, if you can find micro-credentials that your students, or ask them to go and find a learning opportunity and then come back and tell you about it, or tell the class about it. So here you're giving them the opportunity to be free, to find something that they like, and then come tell you about it. Another thing that I've seen is asking students to find a professional development that is out of their comfort zone or out of their knowledge. So maybe, for example, if they are used to going to a certain place in town, ask them if there's a certain area in town that they avoid, ask them to go there, ask them to go to an event that is happening there, and then come and reflect on that event. But remember, we are building the assessment. It's not that at the end of the course, go somewhere and tell me. No, you have to plan where you're going. Tell me why you want to go there, and then connect the learning from the course to that event that you went to. This is an example of multiple ideas of multimedia assessment that students can contribute to, and people are doing amazing things with these. And as I said before, if you can ask your students, that would be amazing. This is the final idea that I'm going to share before we move to another group work, is if you can stay connected with your graduates. So, for example, the people who graduated from your course or graduated from the whole degree. I saw a great example where the instructor asked these graduates to submit tasks that they had to learn when they went and found jobs, and took these tasks and create assessments based on that. So this is evolving all the time. So every year when students graduate, or after 2 years or every 3 years, they can submit these tasks that they have learned on the job. And then you can create an assessment where your students are learning these tasks before they go to work. And I keep learning things all the time, even after my PhD, even after all these degrees that I have, I keep learning things. And I think it would be amazing for teachers who are graduating now to go and if I can submit these tasks, and then students can learn through assessment. So I just gave you a lot of examples. I'm going to put the link to this presentation in the chat, because I'm sure that some of you might want to go see it. And Yasser, if you can put everybody in breakout rooms. I have more questions on the Jamboard for you to reflect on. What I really want to know is, what is this aha moment that you got from these ideas that I was giving? And what is one thing that you think you could implement?
Eliana, the document isn't accessible.
Is not? Okay, fix that. I am so sorry.
We all do
How
this.
long do you need the breakout rooms?
Yeah, now let's put 6 minutes, please.
Okay.
Okay, so it should be fixed.
Yeah, it is.
It is fixed. Okay, perfect. And we're using the same Jamboard. I am creating a 5th page where you can go and reflect on what you just heard from me. Remember, this is the first step, and changing your assessment is an adventure. So the first step is reflecting on what you just learned. So Yasser, feel free to open the breakout rooms, and you have 6 minutes to.
It's just Virginia and I who came back. Everybody else is still in the break. I think Virginia just clicked as soon as she saw leave now.
Oh, goodbye.
I think like Virginia, like you were in the middle of saying something, and I thought maybe they yanked you back, but.
Wow,
I think
the 1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour goes by so fast. The aha moment for me, Eliana, was when they're self-assessing, to also add what they did with your feedback and how they learn from the feedback, because that's also like reflecting back to us if our feedback is useful.
Yes. Is everybody back?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. I know we only have 2 more minutes, so let's hear your aha moments. I know Maha said that it's the reflecting or including our feedback on their reflections, in their reflections.
Dr. Meg and I were also thinking about the idea of following social media figures and then using that to relate to the course, which is interesting because social media is very powerful nowadays, this generation.
Yeah. And I also learned, so when my students, like, they tell me who they followed, and I go and I check who they followed and what they learned from them, I also learn all the time. I think that's amazing. So hopefully you enjoy it if you do it. Yeah.
And Dr. Meg also thought of the idea of the annotations. She found as an aha thing as well. Yeah. And having timelines as well. Yeah.
I do like also to ask about how could you evaluate the students? This is the grading system. It is a little bit.
So you can, there's multiple ways of doing this. So the first one is you can spend time, if you are a rubric person, you can spend time creating a rubric and then checking what they understood and then putting a grade on that. The second one is you can co-create the rubric with your students. So instead of just you making a rubric, so tell them, let's assess together. I also like to include self-assessment and peer assessment before they get to my assessment. If you are in ungrading or you are interested in ungrading, you can also go to the ungrading part where you don't really need to put a grade until the end of the course. So that's also something. I like the specification grading or the mastery-based grading where, but it takes time to think about the things that you want to grade. So thinking about which ones you want to grade and how does learning look like. And then when you see that somebody achieved that learning, they get the grade or they don't get anything because they did not learn yet. So the whole conversation about putting a grade is too big to be covered. But if you would like to reach out to me, I have a lot of resources about grading that you can.
Because
I'm
because I'm teaching freshmen, and usually freshmen it is a little bit, it's a little bit. It is not like the seniors out.
Yes, I agree, and I agree that we have to modify depending on which class we are teaching. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a one-on-one discussion. It's not something that we can just cover with a blanket idea that, okay, this is how we grade it. It's something that is relevant to your course.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we are coming up on time. I just put my email. You can please feel free to send me an email. And at the end of my presentation, I will include a page where you can follow us on social media. And also I'm having an assessment incubator project. I have a form that you can fill if you are interested in being part of this incubator project where we discuss your assessment and we work with you to change your assessment. So I will add that page to the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, I see that Maha and Irene put the link to the feedback form. So if you want to go ahead and let them know about it. I think there's a feedback form and I'm sure they're asking you to please fill it in order to make the MyFest work better. And thank you so much for joining today. And I hope I gave you some great ideas for your assessment. One last thing is, if you are doing an alternative assessment, I would advise that you start small. Do something and then check with your students and then elaborate on that. Thank you so much. And I'm going to hang out for a couple of minutes if you have questions and you have time.
Thank you, Dr. Eliana, for this session.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.